The unthinkable just happened. Minutes ago, the news broke that shook Britain to its core. Keir Starmer has resigned as Prime Minister. The man who promised stability, who claimed he would restore trust in government, has walked away from number 10 Downing Street. And while the nation stands in shock, Nigel Farage is celebrating. The streets are erupting. Social media is on fire. This is not a drill. This is the political earthquake that nobody saw coming, and it's happening right now. The establishment has crumbled, and what comes next could change Britain forever. Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal will blow your mind. Just 1 minute ago, the official statement was released. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, has resigned from office. The resignation came without warning, without any prior indication that something this massive was about to unfold. Sources close to number 10 say that Starmer held an emergency meeting with his closest advisors earlier this morning, and what was discussed behind those closed doors has led to this bombshell announcement. The resignation letter is brief, almost shockingly so. Starmer cites personal reasons and the need to step aside for the good of the country. But those words ring hollow to millions of Britons who are now demanding answers. Personal reasons for the good of the country. People aren't buying it. And they're making their voices heard across every platform imaginable. Within minutes of the announcement, the reaction was explosive. Twitter, now known as X, is absolutely flooded with reactions. The hashtag Starmer RESIGNS is trending number 1, not just in the UK, but globally. People are sharing their shock, their anger, their confusion. Some are celebrating, others are in complete disbelief. The political commentators who just hours ago were analysing routine parliamentary business are now scrambling to make sense of this unprecedented moment. Television networks have interrupted their regular programming. News anchors are struggling to maintain their composure as they read the breaking news. This is the kind of moment that gets seared into the collective memory of a nation. Where were you when Starmer resigned? That's the question people will be asking for years to come. But while half the country is reeling from the shock, there's one man who is absolutely thriving in this moment. Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform UK, the man who has been a thorn in the side of the establishment for decades, is celebrating like he's just won the lottery. And in a way he has. Farage has been calling for Starmer's resignation for months. He's been hammering away at the Prime Minister's failures, his broken promises, his inability to deliver on the mandate he claimed to have. Every Prime Minister's questions, every interview, every social media post, Farage has been relentless in his criticism. And now, his predictions have come true. Starmer is gone, and Farage is making sure everyone knows that he saw this coming. Farage released a video statement just minutes after the resignation was announced. In it, he's practically glowing with satisfaction. He stands in front of a Reform UK banner, and you can see the gleam in his eye as he speaks directly to the camera. This is a victory for the British people, he says. This is proof that the establishment cannot ignore the will of the people forever. Starmer promised change, but he delivered more of the same. He promised to listen, but he turned a deaf ear to the concerns of ordinary working families. And now he's been forced to admit defeat. His words are sharp, calculated, and designed to strike at the heart of the political establishment. Farage isn't just celebrating Starmer's downfall, he's positioning himself and his party as the alternative, the movement that represents real change. The timing of this resignation couldn't be more significant. Just weeks ago, polls had showed that public confidence in Starmer's government had hit an all-time low. His approval ratings were in freefall. The cost of living crisis continues to devastate families across the country. Energy bills remain sky high. Food prices keep climbing. The National Health Service is in crisis, with waiting times at record levels and staff shortages crippling the system. Immigration remains a flashpoint issue, with small boats crossing the English Channel daily despite promises to stop them. And then there's the economy. Growth is stagnant. Investment is fleeing. Businesses are struggling. The very foundations of what made Britain strong are crumbling. And people are looking for someone to blame. That someone was Keir Starmer. But it's not just policy failures that have led to this moment. There are whispers, rumours circulating in Westminster and beyond that there's more to this story than what's being officially stated. Some insiders are suggesting that Starmer faced an ultimatum from within his own party. Others claim that there's a scandal brewing, something so damaging that resignation was the only way to get ahead of it before it completely destroyed not just Starmer, but the entire Labour Party. The mainstream media hasn't picked up on these rumours yet, or perhaps they're choosing not to, but on alternative news platforms, on independent channels, the speculation is running wild. What did Starmer know? What was he hiding? And why now? Why this exact moment for him to step down? The political fallout is only just beginning. Within the Labour Party, there's panic. Who will take over? Who can possibly unite a party that's now in complete disarray? The Deputy Prime Minister will assume the role temporarily, but everyone knows that's just a stopgap measure. The real battle is about to begin. The factions within Labour, the Blairites, the Corbynites, the moderates, the progressives, they're all about to go to war with each other to determine the future direction of the party. And while they fight amongst themselves, Nigel Farage and Reform UK are waiting in the wings, ready to capitalise on every mistake, every misstep, every moment of weakness. This is their opportunity and they're not going to let it slip away. Outside Westminster, on the streets of British cities and towns, the reaction is visceral. In some places, there's celebration. People are gathering, cheering, some even setting off fireworks. They see this as the fall of a failed leader, the end of a government that never truly represented them. In other places, there's anger and fear. Supporters of Starmer and the Labour Party are devastated. They're worried about what comes next, about who will lead, about whether their values and priorities will be represented in whatever government forms next. The country is divided, more divided perhaps than it's been in generations, and this resignation has only deepened those divisions. Britain is not just experiencing a political crisis, it's experiencing an identity crisis. A moment where the very soul of the nation is being contested. Social media has become a battlefield. Supporters of different political factions are arguing, insulting, attacking each other with a ferocity that's genuinely alarming. Misinformation is spreading like wildfire. Fake quotes, doctored images, completely fabricated stories are being shared thousands of times before anyone can fact check them. The information environment is chaotic. And in that chaos, the truth becomes harder and harder to find. Everyone has an opinion, everyone has a theory, and everyone is convinced that they're right. This is the new reality of British politics, a reality where emotions trump facts, where tribal loyalty trumps rational debate, where the loudest voices often drown out the most informed ones. Meanwhile, that Nigel Farage is not wasting a single second. He's announced that he'll be holding a major rally in London tomorrow. The location hasn't been confirmed yet, but sources say it could accommodate tens of thousands of people. Farage is calling this the People's Victory Rally, and he's urging every patriotic Brit who's tired of establishment politics to attend. The rally is being promoted across social media, with influencers and political commentators amplifying the message. This is being framed not just as a celebration of Starmer's resignation, but as a launching pad for something bigger. Reform UK is positioning itself as the party of the future, the movement that will sweep away the old guard and bring real fundamental change to Britain. Whether you agree with their politics or not, there's no denying the momentum they're building. The resignation of Keir Starmer has sent shockwaves through the entire British establishment, and the reverberations are being felt far beyond just Westminster. Financial markets reacted immediately to the news, with the pound sterling experiencing significant volatility within the first hour of the announcement. Currency traders are scrambling to assess what this political upheaval means for Britain's economic stability. The FTSE index saw sharp movements as investors tried to price in the uncertainty of what comes next. International investors are watching nervously, wondering whether Britain is about to enter another period of political chaos, similar to what the country experienced during the tumultuous years of Brexit negotiations and the rapid succession of prime ministers that followed. The business community is deeply concerned because political instability translates directly into economic uncertainty, and uncertainty is something that markets absolutely hate. Major corporations with significant operations in the UK are holding emergency board meetings to discuss contingency plans. Some are already considering whether to accelerate plans to shift operations or headquarters to more stable jurisdictions within Europe or beyond. The international reaction to Starmer's resignation has been equally dramatic. World leaders are issuing carefully worded statements, most expressing respect for Starmer's service, while diplomatically avoiding any comment on the internal political situation of the United Kingdom. But behind closed doors, the conversations are far less diplomatic. Foreign ministries across Europe, North America and beyond are conducting urgent assessments of what this means for their relationships with Britain. The United States, Britain's closest ally, is particularly concerned. American officials have built relationships with Starmer's government, and now they face the prospect of having to start over with whoever comes next. There are whispers that some nations are worried about the rise of populist movements in Britain, concerned that Farage and Reform UK represent a shift toward a more isolationist, nationalistic foreign policy that could complicate international cooperation on everything from security to trade to climate change. The geopolitical implications of this resignation are profound, and they're only beginning to be understood. Back in Britain, the media landscape has transformed into a feeding frenzy. Every news channel is running continuous coverage, bringing in an endless parade of political analysts, former politicians, journalists and commentators to dissect every aspect of this story. The same footage of Starmer's resignation statement is being played on loop, with experts analysing every word, every pause, every facial expression for hidden meaning. Conspiracy theories are multiplying by the hour. Some are claiming that Starmer was forced out by shadowy figures within the deep state who didn't approve of his policies. Others are suggesting that there's a massive scandal about to break, something so damaging that Starmer chose to resign before he could be forced out in disgrace. There are even theories circulating that foreign powers had something to do with this, though these claims are based more on speculation than any actual evidence. The truth is that nobody really knows exactly why Starmer chose this moment to resign, and that vacuum of information is being filled with every imaginable theory. Nigel Farage is absolutely dominating the narrative. He's everywhere, giving interview after interview, posting constantly on social media, ensuring that his face and his message are at the centre of this story. Farage has always been a master of media manipulation, understanding instinctively how to position himself to maximum advantage. He's not just celebrating Starmer's downfall, he's using this moment to articulate his vision for Britain's future. In interview after interview, he's hammering home the same themes. The political establishment has failed the British people. The major parties are all the same, all beholden to special interests and globalist agendas. The only way forward is to completely reject the old system and embrace something new, something that puts Britain first, that prioritises the concerns of ordinary working people over the interests of elites and foreigners. It's a message that resonates powerfully with millions of Britons who feel left behind by economic change, who feel that their voices aren't being heard, who feel that their country is slipping away from them. Whether you find Farage's message inspiring or terrifying depends entirely on where you stand politically, but there's no denying its effectiveness. The Labour Party is in absolute turmoil. Emergency meetings are being held at party headquarters, with senior figures trying to chart a path forward. The question of who will lead the party is dominating every conversation. Various names are being floated, each with their own supporters and detractors. Some want a safe pair of hands, someone experienced who can steady the ship and reassure the public. Others are arguing for a clean break, a younger leader who represents a new generation and can take the party in a completely different direction. The factions within the party are already manoeuvring, making calls, lining up support, preparing for what could be a brutal leadership contest. But there's also recognition that the party needs to project unity, that any public display of internal division will only make things worse and hand even more advantage to Farage and Reform UK. It's a delicate balancing act, and right now nobody is confident that Labour can pull it off successfully. The party that just months ago won a general election and returned to power is now facing an existential crisis, and the outcome is far from certain. On streets and in communities across Britain, people are processing this news in very different ways, depending on their political allegiances and personal circumstances. In areas that voted heavily for Reform UK in the last election, there's a genuine sense of celebration and vindication. People feel that their frustrations have been validated, that their rejection of the mainstream political establishment was justified. There are gatherings in pubs and community centres where people are toasting Starmer's departure and discussing what they hope comes next. Conversely, in areas that strongly supported Labour, there's shock and disappointment. Many people are genuinely sad, feeling that they've lost a leader who they believed in, even if they were frustrated by some of his decisions. There's also fear about what comes next, worry that the country is heading toward a more divided, more confrontational political culture. These geographical and political divisions within Britain are becoming more pronounced with each passing year, and events like this only serve to deepen them further. The Conservative Party, despite being in opposition, is also facing significant questions in the wake of Starmer's resignation. Many are wondering whether the Conservatives can capitalise on Labour's chaos to rebuild their own standing with the British public. But the reality is that the Conservatives are deeply unpopular themselves after their years in government prior to the last election. They face their own internal divisions and their own credibility problems. The real threat to their relevance comes not from Labour, but from Reform UK, which has been steadily eating into their traditional voter base. Farage has successfully positioned Reform as the true voice of Conservative values, portraying the Conservative Party as weak, compromised and out of touch. The Conservatives are trapped in a difficult position, unable to move too far right without looking like they're simply copying Reform, but unable to move toward the centre without alienating what remains of their core support. This three-way battle between Labour, the Conservatives and Reform UK is reshaping British politics in ways that would have been unimaginable just a few years ago. The implications of Starmer's resignation extend far beyond the immediate political ramifications and are forcing Britain to confront fundamental questions about its future direction and identity as a nation. Constitutional experts are already debating whether this moment represents a symptom of deeper problems within the British political system itself. The fact that a Prime Minister elected with a significant majority just months ago has now resigned raises serious questions about the stability and sustainability of the current political framework. Some scholars are arguing that Britain needs constitutional reform, perhaps even a written constitution that would provide clearer guidelines for governance and succession. Others are pointing to the role of social media and the 24-hour news cycle in creating an environment where political leaders are under constant, relentless pressure that makes effective governance nearly impossible. The speed at which political careers can now be destroyed, the intensity of public scrutiny and the weaponisation of every mistake or perceived failure creates a toxic environment that drives talented people away from public service and leaves those who remain in a state of perpetual crisis management rather than actual leadership. The upcoming rally that Nigel Farage has organised is generating massive attention and equally massive concern depending on political perspective. Reform UK supporters are energised like never before, seeing this as their moment to demonstrate that they represent a genuine mass movement and not just a fringe political faction. Coaches are being organised from towns and cities across England to bring supporters to London for what Farage is promising will be the largest political gathering in recent British history. The imagery and symbolism being used in promotional materials is carefully crafted to evoke themes of patriotism, sovereignty, and popular uprising against corrupt elites. Meanwhile, opposition groups are planning counter-demonstrations, concerned that the rally will embolden far-right elements and create an atmosphere of intimidation. Police authorities are preparing for potential clashes between rival groups, deploying significant resources to maintain order and prevent violence. The rally has become a flashpoint, a moment where the deep divisions within British society will be on full display for the world to see. Whatever happens at this event will likely have significant consequences for the trajectory of British politics in the coming months and years. Behind the scenes, there are frantic negotiations happening within the corridors of power. Senior civil servants who are tasked with ensuring continuity of government regardless of political changes are working overtime to manage the transition. There are critical decisions that need to be made, international commitments that need to be honoured, and urgent policy matters that cannot wait for political dramas to resolve themselves. The machinery of government continues to function, but the absence of clear political leadership creates complications at every level. Ministers in Starmer's cabinet are in an awkward position, technically still in their roles, but knowing that their positions are likely temporary and that their authority is severely diminished. Some are already positioning themselves for whatever comes next, whether that's a leadership bid or simply trying to secure their political futures in a rapidly changing landscape. The Westminster rumour mill is working overtime, with journalists and political insiders trading speculation about who knew what and when, about what deals might be being struck behind closed doors, and about what revelations might still be coming that could further reshape the political landscape. The economic consequences of this political instability are becoming more apparent with each passing hour. The pound has stabilised somewhat after its initial volatility, but it remains weaker than it was before the resignation announcement. Economic analysts are warning that prolonged political uncertainty could have serious consequences for investment, growth and employment. Britain's credit rating could potentially be downgraded if ratings agencies conclude that political dysfunction is undermining economic governance. The Bank of England is monitoring the situation closely, prepared to intervene if necessary to maintain financial stability. Business leaders are expressing frustration publicly and privately, arguing that what Britain needs most right now is stable, predictable governance that allows them to plan for the future and make long-term investments. Instead, they're facing yet another period of political chaos that creates exactly the kind of uncertainty that makes business planning extremely difficult. Some multinational corporations that had been considering significant investments in the UK are now putting those plans on hold until the political situation clarifies. The economic damage from political instability is real and measurable, and it ultimately gets paid for by ordinary citizens through reduced growth, fewer jobs, and diminished public services. Public opinion is fracturing in complex and sometimes contradictory ways. Polling conducted in the immediate aftermath of the resignation shows a nation deeply divided, not just politically but emotionally. There's anger, confusion, hope, fear and cynicism, all mixed together in different proportions depending on individual circumstances and political beliefs. What's particularly striking is the generational divide emerging in the data. Younger voters tend to be more sceptical of all political parties and leaders, viewing the entire system as broken and unresponsive to their concerns about issues like climate change, housing affordability, and economic opportunity. Older voters are more likely to have strong partisan allegiances, either celebrating or mourning Starmer's departure depending on their political leanings. This generational divide is creating challenges for all political parties as they try to build coalitions broad enough to win elections. The fragmentation of the British electorate into multiple demographic and ideological segments makes governing increasingly difficult and contributes to the kind of instability that led to Starmer's resignation in the first place. As night falls across Britain, the country finds itself in uncharted territory. The resignation of Keir Starmer is not just a political event, it's a moment that crystallises all the tensions, anxieties and conflicts that have been building within British society for years. The rise of Nigel Farage and Reform UK represents something profound, a rejection of traditional politics and a hunger for something different, even if there's no consensus about what that something different should actually look like. The celebration among some segments of the population and the despair among others illustrates just how far apart Britons have grown in their visions for their country's future. The coming days and weeks will be critical in determining what direction Britain takes from here. Will there be a return to some form of political stability, or is this just the beginning of a deeper crisis that will fundamentally transform British politics and society? Nobody knows for certain, but what is clear is that Britain is living through a genuinely historic moment, one that will be studied and debated for generations to come. The only certainty is that nothing will be the same after today, and the Britain that emerges from this crisis will be shaped by the choices and actions taken in the crucible of this extraordinary moment in the nation's history.